Alright guys, and here's what we've got. It's Cub Cadet LTX 1045. Had this out here for about a month and a half. Overall, the condition of this tractor is complete. Tear in the seat. I did see that the deck belt was shredded on it. There's a huge oil leak. Looks like it's coming from the drain on here. We're gonna take a good look over this thing, see what we can do to get this mower revived, but we've got a nasty rainstorm coming in and I'm trying my best to get this drug up to the shop right now. So far the only thing that looks like it's holding me back is we have one flat tire in the front. I gotta go air up, still on the bead, but let's get this over here and see what we can do. Well, the rain's coming down heavy. I gotta get this thing towed, but check out this spider. Got a bunch of those riding spiders here in North Carolina. I forget what the official name is, but they're huge. And that's the size of my hand next to it. Got about 12 PSI in there. Should be good enough for us to roll. All right. Just got this pulled over close to the shop. Unfortunately, the steering on here is about seized. I couldn't move it at all, so I went straight from where it was parked all the way across the yard, and fortunately it was a straight shot. But show you guys what we're working with. We have a 46-inch cutting deck on this machine. I did just look up the model number on this, and it's a 2010. It also says the build date on this Kohler Courage 20 horse single. True hydrostatic transmission, LTX 1045. I got this from a local scrapper for 100 bucks, and hopefully this can be saved. I'm trying to think of what I've noticed on it so far. Huge oil leak on the other side, which I believe is coming from the drain port. We'll have to check the oil level in here and see if there's even any oil in this engine. The deck belt on it is shredded. I have not checked the blades. Well, this blade is on upside down and it's seized spindle. So foot pedal drive. I doubt we have any juice in the battery. Yeah, we've got nothing there, so we'll try to put the jump pack to it in the shop and see if we can see how many hours are on here. I did check, it has a battery from 3 of 22 with a ton of corrosion on it. So far, 3 of the tires hold air. That one is holding air after rolling it over here so far, so we'll see how long that holds. But yeah, this thing is so far looking like kind of a hot mess. Let's get in the shop, see what we can figure out. All right, and just getting this thing pulled into the shop was a chore in itself with the no steering. So this side is moving, as well as the steering linkage on this side. I did notice though, I was trying to take a look at this side, and instead of somebody putting the grease zerk back in, they just filled it with RTV. So that's probably gonna be our problem with just water getting down in there. Right off the bat, we're gonna go ahead, just check the oil, see if there is any in there, because I highly doubt it with the amount of oil and muck here on the side of the engine. After that, we'll go ahead, put the jumper pack to it, and we can see how many hours are on it and see if we have power to the starter. I know most people very much dislike these Kohler Courages. They're honestly not bad, but you know, the biggest culprit is the sump is on the top of these, and those top bolts end up backing out, make contact with the flywheel, and end up cracking the side of the block on the other side. I did take a peek at the other side and I did not see any cracks yet, so we'll get into all that. And yeah, the dipstick is completely dry. There is no oil in here. Gonna see how much oil this takes to even get up to the bottom of the line on here. All right, just got that topped off. Took almost a quart, but we are actually just a little bit above the full line. I didn't expect it to fill up that quickly. But we can check this air filter on here. I mean, this mower does not look to be in terrible shape. I don't know how long it's been sitting, but you know, it is 15 years old, so we'll see. Yeah, like, see, the air filter on here actually looks pretty good. You guys have seen some, if you guys have seen some of my other videos, you've seen some of the air filters that come off. So, and the air box itself looks extremely clean. So we'll just go ahead, actually we'll just leave that off for now, because we'll probably have to put some spray in there if this turns over. So let me hook up the jumper pack and let's check these hours. Alright, got it hooked up the best I could. There is so much corrosion on that positive, but I've got 12.5 volts in the jump pack. So I'll sneak you guys around here and let's take a look. So we are getting lights on the dash. 11.8 is what it's reading, and 155.5 hours. And the light came on over there. Let me move that actually before that melts something. Let me turn this off and pull that bulb, because these bulbs get extremely hot and I don't need that melting anything. Alright, so let's see if we can go ahead and just put the parking brake on. Make sure everything's out the way here. And we'll see if we've got any kind of crank action. Yeah, so the battery light flashes like it's supposed to, but I don't see anything for the oil or anything like that. And we've got solenoid clicking. Which, if you guys know MTDs, our solenoid is mounted right here on the back of the frame. So more than likely that's gonna need to be changed as well. We'll disconnect from the battery here. We'll just go straight to the starter. One of the things I did check when this was brought here was compression. I normally do. The engine felt good. It's hard for me to turn that over one-handed, but we'll see if this Kohler starter will do it. So let me set you guys up and let's see if we can get this spinning over. Alright, so I did just take a look at the gas tank, and there is absolutely no fuel, water, anything in there. It's completely bone dry, and there is also a gas fill tube that I guess fell down in the tank. So I just wanted to see if we had any fuel in here, but I am going to put my positive straight to the starter. I have my key on accessory, and we'll just go right to the muffler. And that engine is shaking like crazy. See if I can show you guys that real quick. Did you guys see the engine shaking? The mounting bolts must be loose. Wow. The muffler too? Oh yeah. Let me get you guys down here. So we are missing a muffler bolt. I'm hoping that this one's not stripped out. They probably fell loose if the engine's been doing that for a while. So let me go ahead and figure out what size these engine bolts are. We'll see if we can get that snugged up, and then we'll see about go ahead and hitting the engine with some spray, see if we can't get this thing to kick over. Alright, so I'm tightening these up. This one was loose, this one was loose, the front other corner was loose, and the back one over there was completely missing, so I'll have to find another bolt for that side. But yeah, and then I've got to find, I'm hoping I have another exhaust bolt for the other side, and I need to see if that exhaust gasket is still there. But yeah, this engine was about to rattle itself right off the machine. Yeah, so that was about the only one on here that felt tight. So hopefully with those three snugged down, we're not shaking as bad. We're just trying to see if this is even going to run or not, condition of this engine. Alright, so I've got a T40 that seems to be fitting on here. We'll see. It doesn't feel like the threads are damaged as of yet. I think it had just backed itself out. I take that back. Those threads are definitely damaged on there. I just can't tell if the gasket's on there. I'll have to drop down this shield and pull this muffler out so we can take a look. Should be 3/8 on these. All right, 4 3/8. And then we've got another bracket over here holding it on the front, which looks to be like a 10 millimeter or so. Hey, sweetie. All right, so I did find an exhaust gasket. This one looks new. Probably just came from a kit I bought a while back, and then I was able to find another bolt that matches the same thread and the same length. So we can go ahead and put this exhaust back on. There was no gasket on here whatsoever, so go ahead and get this back into place. And one thing I am going to do is I'm going to grab some anti-seize real quick and put that on there before we install that. Just gonna put a tiny little bit on each bolt. That way, if these ever have to come back out, they will. So I'm gonna go ahead and run these down in, see if we can get this thing snugged up. And then we'll put some spray to it and see if this thing will kick over. We're gonna go ahead and just throw some spray, just a little bit right in the intake. Let me make sure everything's working. So honestly, this carburetor, like, everything looks clean in here. I don't know, you know, with the gas situation, I'm debating just putting some gas in here and seeing what it does. But we'll go half throttle right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and bump the starter and we'll see what happens. Well, there had to have been fuel in the line. Let me show you guys, because I told you guys there was no gas in this tank. Let me grab the flashlight. See if you guys, if we can see down in there. Maybe you guys can see. It's hard to hold the camera, but maybe if I light up from the bottom. Yeah, there we go. So there is nothing in there. It is bone dry, and there's that filler neck from a gas tank. So there had to have been a little bit of fuel in that line. It was surging, but there's also not enough fuel to keep it going. So let me go grab my gas can. We'll throw some fuel in here and let's see if this thing will just run on its own. All right, well, I had like the tiniest bit of gas in this can. We're gonna see if it's enough without going up to the store. And also if our needle and seat is holding on here, because it seemed kind of odd that the tank was bone dry. So there should be enough fuel to go down in there. We'll see where this takes us. I think if it does start up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and engage the transmission on the back, and we'll just really quickly see if it'll move. At least we can kind of knock out a couple things at one time. So let me get everything out of the way here. All right, key on. Well, apparently our battery is reading 9 volts now, so maybe there was some charge in that battery in the back, but the connection was really bad. Alright, let's see what it does with no spray. Alright, well, so far it's at least moving a little bit. I didn't want to run it for long because you guys can see the smoke that is burning off over here around the exhaust area. It is cooking here in the shop, so we'll let this air out for a minute. Matter of fact, I do want to check real quick with the multimeter. We'll see how much battery is actually in, or how much voltage is in this battery. I mean, it's 3 years old, but I never even checked it. But it also didn't do anything the first time we turned on the key, but that could just be with all that corrosion. So yeah, we've got, well, 10 volts. It's kind of jumping around, but yeah, we've got roughly 10 volts in that battery. So it seems like the charging system might be working on here as well, because once I took the battery, the jumper pack off from the front, it needs to at least be charging enough to keep the fuel solenoid working, or the anti-backfire. And also the battery light did not come on the dash. So far we've got an engine that sounds halfway decent, and so far it moves. But our steering obviously is locked up, and this thing is still an absolute hot mess. Deck was frozen. Yeah, let me see where we're going next on this. Alright, next thing we are going to tackle is the steering, just because I want to be able to move this thing in and out of the shop. So we've got a 1/2 inch. We've got to take this bolt and nut off, and that should release the steering to come out from the steering arm. Alright, so we got that. Now I think what we're gonna have to do is kind of pry up to loosen up this knuckle basically here. You gotta kind of open up this mouth here a little bit. Now that we got that loose, we should be able to just kind of walk this off. Got a bushing, and yeah, there is a ton of corrosion on there, so we'll see. Let me spray some stuff down on here, and then we'll see if we can't get it start moving. What I'll probably do as well is go ahead and take this wheel off, and that way I can get better access to everything. We just have a cotter pin and a washer, and then I'll have that off. Alright, here's where I'm at. I did get that wheel off. I've got a pipe wrench on here, along with about a 2.5 foot extension handle, and just got it starting to free up. So I'm gonna keep working this, and my goal is I need to go ahead and get this to drop down all the way. That way we can get a wire wheel onto that shaft, and then also get some fresh grease on there. Alright, well, that thing took some serious coaching to get off, but I finally got it. I didn't end up having to use heat, but just had to keep working it back and forth, and I tapped on the top, which ended up kind of mushrooming out the top a little bit. So then I had to take the grinder to take the edges down, and finally was able to get that out. So I'm going to take this over to the wire wheel, get this all cleaned up, and get some grease down in, and we should be good with our steering. With this, got all that rust and corrosion cleaned up. I just put some grease down in here. I don't have another cert fitting at the moment, so I'm going to have to probably go up to Tractor Supply and get one, but we should be able to just get this up and in there now. I'm going to try to work as much grease as I can in here, and we should be good to go once we get plenty of grease down in here. I'm gonna pack a little bit at the bottom as well, but once we get that cert fitting on here, it'll be 100% ready to go. But this is nice and smooth now, you guys can see, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this all buttoned back up, and then we can test out that steering. Alright, got that back together. Everything looks good here. I'll show you guys, I've got it a little bit off the ground. Make sure you can see both. But yep, full lock both ways. Smooth as butter. So we are good there. Still got it, like I said, the grease fitting. I got to grease up the other side, but there was some grease in there. But we at least have the steering not locked up now, so we can drive this around. But I've got to wrap up everything for today, and I will check in with you guys as soon as we are jumping on to the next thing of this tractor. Alright, well, it's been about 4 days since you guys last saw this, and I did pull it out the shop that day, and I checked the steering is nice and smooth on here now. I'll take you guys for a little ride along, and then I'm going to bring this over to the pressure washer. I'm going to go ahead and give this at least one quick pressure wash, try to get all that grease and oil off from the engine, because this thing is just absolutely caked, and even worse on the other side. So I did also just put about a quarter of a tank of gas in here, because the other day I needed to fill up my gas can, so should be good enough on fuel now. And we'll see what a cold start sounds like on this today. Our battery is back down to reading nothing, the one that was already in here, but we'll see if we can get this started. Go to choke. Can see now how smooth that steering is. Right, you can definitely smell the oil burning off the muffler, but it did start right up. Sure, could probably use a just some fresh fuel run through that carburetor. We may, if it causes any problems, we'll go ahead and clean that out as well. But I did want to mention to you guys, I sold the John Deere about an hour ago from a couple videos ago for $9.50 with that bagger, and then I just listed that Husqvarna you guys saw in the last video as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll get you guys set up, probably time lapse this and get this thing all cleaned up. Show you guys one more view of that crud in here. Probably gonna go ahead and stuff something. I'll take the air filter out and stuff something in the the intake of the carburetor. That way we don't soak that filter, because that filter looked like it was in really good shape. So let's get it cleaned up. Alright, and it is looking much better after about 20 minutes of pressure washing. I did just check the drain port here, just as I suspected. You guys can see this thing is just finger loose, so it's been dripping oil for a while. May end up having to just do the full oil change on this, pull that out, and probably put some new thread tape on it and reseal it. But overall, this should be much better for us to be able to work on now. So I'm gonna get this all blown off and dried and pulled over to the shop. We'll probably at least pull the mowing deck off from it next, and then we can look underneath, see what our belts look like, and see what we've got to do with the mowing deck. On this mowing deck, we have these rear mounting points. So there's a cotter pin here on the back side that I've got to take out. And then once this cotter pin is out, then we can release this arm on here. It's got a little hook on it. All right, got the pin dropped. And now our arm should come out. So just basically that arm, and then this will slide up when we raise the deck. But we've got to do the same thing to the other side, and also on the other side we have the deck engagement cable. On the front we just have this pin, washer, and then the front arm. So we'll go ahead and pull the other side off as well. And I did notice that the cable is kind of routed behind the arm here, and it kind of put a kink in it. It should have been ran to the outside, so somebody's messed in here before. But it's hard to see these clips from this side. I may have to go around to the other side where I can see the clip better, but you guys saw it's supposed to be spring loaded like this one. The other one just pulled out. But then we just need to basically unhook the cable here. Got to just pinch the tab, and then we should be good. So let me get this cotter pin out and we'll get this cable loose. Alright, I did get the clip out on this side, so the cotter pin was different than the other side as well. This one still had the spring that came off, but this side I thought was one of the pinch style, but it's actually supposed to have a cotter pin in there. And it was a little bit froze up on the tensioner. I'll show you guys, but basically I had to pull the tensioner. I was able to pull this out and then pull the hook out, but I'll show you guys where all this stuff hooks up, and we should be ready to pull this deck out. So I've just got to keep the cable out of the way, and then we should just be able to pull this right out. So this belt is kind of rust welded to the pulley, so we're probably gonna have to take these guards off. That pulley's gonna be super noisy. This one's rubbing against the guard. So both of these are gonna need replaced. Yeah, there's just a bunch of dirt and debris up under everything. But let me see what size these covers are. All right, so these were 3/8. Now these covers, they act as guards on here as well, so you have to have them. Even though these are the plastic ones, you can see that they've got the metal belt keeper inside. This is that one that was seized up. I'm not even gonna mess with that, honestly. I've looked at the rebuild kit. I think there's one for like 70 that comes with 2 new spindles, 2 idlers, and then a belt. So we'll go ahead, pick up that kit, because to be honest, it's much easier just to have all new hardware for the price that it would cost. But this one is moving. All right, so yep, just like I thought. Actually, they did both blades are on upside down, so these blades are like brand new. But I think I see why this spindle is frozen up. It looks like they hit a big piece of Romex house wire. But we'll just take a look at the overall condition. I mean, everything on the bottom side here looks good. This spot is supposed to be here. I guess that's an access hole to take off that idler bolt. I think overall we're in pretty good shape. We'll just leave that as is for now. It needs to be cleaned up, obviously, and disassembled, but I'll get that kit on order, and let me make sure I get my hardware organized, pull this in, let's look underneath. Get down here. Oh yeah, this thing is soaked. But that thing had probably been leaking for a long time. I'm trying to get some light for you guys to see, but you can see the sludge down here. But it does look like our belt is bad. Trying to get light. Oh yeah. You can see all the splits in the belt. So that was on its way out the door as well. But let me set the parking brake real quick and get some tension off this belt. So now hopefully we can hear what these sound like. That one's nice and smooth. That one's nice and smooth. Not getting any noise off those two. And that one's got a little bit of noise. No play, but some noise for sure. So we'll see about replacing at least that pulley. Obviously the belt, I normally just go off from the model and serial number and then just look up my parts through there, and then I can kind of cross-reference those parts to maybe Amazon and look around just to see what I can find for the best price. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this dropped down. We'll pull that battery out and we'll test out that starter solenoid. And then we just need to pull up on this tray, and then our solenoid will be right back here against the firewall in the rear. Alright, so this is where it's going to get really hard for me to show you guys what's going on. But right through the back, here is our starter solenoid. We have one wire that's going to it is going to be a ground. The other one is going to be a signal wire from the key switch. And then there are 2 larger studs. One side comes from your battery, that goes to it, and then the other side actually goes to directly to your starter. This is just a bad one that I have pulled out, but you can see this is a 4-post as well. So, and it doesn't matter which leg is which. You can put the positive signal on this one or this one, you know, vice versa, whichever one you want to put the ground on, and then you just have to have your 2 positive cables on it. But I'm going to go ahead and get this pulled out of here. It's going to be hard for me to show, but once we get it out, we'll give it a bench test, and then we'll go from there. So we've just got the 2 positives on there. Like I said, I did disconnect. We've got a green and then a orange on this one. It doesn't matter which side. And then these are 7/16 nuts to take it off. And if you ever need to just know the orientation, you can always just take a picture as well. But I'm just going to grab these 2 7/16 off, and then we'll have it off the machine. We can bench test it. Now when I did pull this out, both of the nuts were a little bit loose for both of the connections. We'll see if this is truly bad or not. I've got everything set up here. So basically what we're going to do is, with the jumper pack, you could use jumper cables with another battery as well, but we're going to put a positive connection like we are from the battery. Then we need a negative going to either one of these legs on here. We'll just go to the farther one. Now I will go ahead and just make sure that we're getting connection. We are 13 volts. Now I do have a jumper wire here. This is just going to go on the other leg, and what I will do is, at this point, I need to see if we're going to get 12 volts on this side of the leg to go to our starter. You can hear it clicking. That's basically lifting up the magnet inside to the plate to connect these two. And what I'll do is just put my meter on the ground there, and then we need to just go to this stud right here, and we're getting 12, 12.8, 12.7. Alright, so we should have a good solenoid right there. 12.7, 12.8. These do take a fair amount of draw, but I think honestly we just had bad connections. But it is good to be able to pull this out and test it, show you guys. But what I want to do is I'm going to clean up the positive connection, the negative, both of those, and make sure everything is nice and secure and snug. We'll put the jumper pack to it and see if this will just turn over with this original starter solenoid. These terminals are nice and clean. I took everything down to copper, so we'll see. Now these, the way they have these MTDs, they're like notorious for having grounding issues with the starter solenoid too. So you really have to make sure that the one that's connected to the ground, everything is tight and clean on there as well. So we'll give this a shot and see. We have 13 volts on the dash now, which was higher than what we had before. Fired right up. So I think we'll try it one more time. Awesome. So we've got the starter solenoid problem fixed on here. It's basically just connection problems. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this stuff wrapped up now that we've got a list of basically I think what we're going to need for this machine. We're going to check for oil leaks next. I'm going to have to run this for a little bit, see where things are leaking. We obviously know about the drain port, but the valve covers on the Kohler Courages leak pretty bad too. So far, I think we're in fairly good shape here. I'll get this deck washed off too, and then we'll just take it from there. Alright, so I know this video is already starting to get a little bit long. What I did is I have gone ahead and cleaned up the valve cover, got this all wiped down. I did check, all of the bolts on here were pretty much loose except for the top two. I had to pull off the top cover. It's 4 5/16 bolts, and then every single one of these that does the valve cover is a 10 millimeter. So I went through and torqued them down. It's 65 inch-pounds for these, and everything is wiped up. So we're going to see if that will stop the leak on it, and if it does not, then we can go ahead through the process of putting on that new cork gasket. Now as far as the drain port on here, I tried to find a socket that'll fit on here, but I'll show you guys if I can here. The problem is they ran the bolt through the frame for the belt guard, and where it runs through the frame, it's actually, you know, pushed up through the plate. So now a socket will not fit through here where this metal is unless I were to basically bang that all down, and then we'd have a heck of a time getting the bolt through. So the only thing I've got, I don't have an open end wrench to fit on here, but I have an adjustable. See if we can get this snugged up, and then I'll run this for about 10 minutes and check for leaks. If everything's good from there, we'll just keep an eye on it. This is going to be a tight fit in here. I'm going to do my best to get this snugged up, and it is a little bit scratched up on the block. So somebody has done this before, but I'm not going to go crazy on it. We're just going to snug this up. Got to get my adjustment just right. You definitely don't want to overdo this. You end up cracking the block, and then we're basically back at square one. Alright, so I got about a full rotation on that, and that feels much better. So I'm going to get all this wiped down really well. We'll go ahead and put our cap back on here, our little dust cover, and then we'll get this thing cranked up. Now, alright, it may end up being a little smoky. I tried to get all the oil off the muffler I could when I tightened up those valve cover bolts. Go about 10 minutes. Alright, I have not seen any leaks. Everything is still burning off. There was just a little bit of some stuff on the back side of the, well, I guess on the cylinder head that was kind of smoking, but I checked with the flashlight while I was running it there, and no leak on the valve cover, no leak on the drain. I did get this nice and hot. So I do want to wait to give it an oil change until we run it around a little bit. We'll keep an eye for any more oil leaks, but now I'm waiting on parts to come in. As soon as they come in, I'm going to knock out that pulley, the drive belt, and then get that deck rebuilt, give this a detail, and I think we should be on the home stretch. Alright, and I did get this a pressure wash, got parts in, so finally can move forward with this mowing deck. Now the spindles that I ordered, these did come with the pulley on it, so I do not need to remove the pulley. Sometimes they don't come with it, but on this one I would like to save these spindles because I want to try and rebuild them with new bearings at some point for another machine. All we need to do right now is go ahead and get this flipped over. We'll get those spindles removed. I'm going to put some penetrating spray on the top side of these bolts, and hopefully we can get them out without snapping them. We'll flip it back over and get the upper pulleys done. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take the blades off from here. That way we have access to our 4 bolts all the way around. Now the big nut on here should be a 15/16, and then we should be 1/2 inch on the 4 that hold each spindle. Now we can see that house wire. I mean, that is completely seized up around there, but I'll have to try to get some pliers and peel all that off. At this point, what I'll do is take my breaker bar and I'll try to get these all loose. Normally the MTD style ones, yeah, these are actually coming out really easy. Normally the MTD style ones, I generally don't have them break on me. It's like the AYP or the older Craftsman ones, they always seem to be seized and break. So I'll get these all loosened up, take them the rest of the way out with the impact. We'll get all these out, we'll just pull them through the top side. And there we have it. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the spring off that holds the brake, and this one was still seized up. But there we have our 2 old spindles. Like I said, I'm going to try to save those. We'll go ahead. I'm gonna try to free up this brake real quick. I don't think there was much to it. Probably got some dirt and debris underneath of it. I'm just gonna hit it with a little bit of some penetrating spray. Yeah, there we go. That's all it was. Now it'll spring right back into place. And there is actually enough room to get an open end on the one that has the access hole. My impact's strong enough to get it. So we've got that. Take it off. And then on this, the belt keeper, we just have a washer. Then the keeper itself, on the bottom there's a little nub, and that nub goes onto this bracket right here. We'll get that all wiped down, and then we'll take this one off. Just got a nut. Take this one off. Should have the same deal here with the... Yeah, see, this one was actually off from where it was supposed to be, because the cutout for the nub is over here. It was sitting over here, so this got moved. So we'll get that in the correct position. We're gonna need to get the belt in here, so I'm gonna hold off on putting this one on and the keeper. We'll go ahead and get the spindles on, and then we'll get the belt routed, and we'll get the other pulley and make sure that everything is snugged up. The cert fitting on here is going to be below the deck, so it really doesn't matter where we put it. I'll probably aim it to the front, and what I'll do now is pull back on that arm. We'll get that brake to kind of sit in the groove right there, and that should get us close enough where we need to be. When I lift this up, we'll put the bolts through the bottom side. Alright, then I just repeated the same thing. I've got the cert fitting on the front and just had to pull the brake back a little bit. Now I'm just going to lift this up, get all those into position, and I'm going to put some blue thread lock on each one of these bolts. These did come pre-threaded and with its own hardware, so I'm going to get this tightened up. It's not really a whole lot to show other than tightening 8 bolts. Alright, and the torque spec on these bolts is 75 to 85 foot-pounds. So just make sure those get torqued down evenly. I go in a crisscross pattern. We can loosely go ahead and set the other pulley and guard into place. Just got to get my washer. Same thing with this. Put the thicker side down and our nut. So we'll just get this into place. And now I've got our belt here. This came in that kit as well. So we have a belt diagram, but the V part always goes on the V, and then the flat part always goes on the flat. So that right there is how it's supposed to go on the machine, just like that. So we've got that routed. We'll go ahead and get this tightened up now, and I probably will go ahead and pull that one back in a little bit to make sure that the guard is nice and tight. Other than that, we just got to throw the blades on the bottom. I'll probably end up doing some touch-up paint on here, but I'll do that off camera. That's pretty much all we've got to do on getting this deck back in shape. Alright, and here's how everything looks on here. I did go ahead and get the blades cleaned up a little bit and torqued on there. So if you guys remember, I did wipe these down with some oil, got them cleaned up. They were almost brand new copperhead blades by Rotary, so these are nice blades on here. And all of our pulleys are nice and smooth. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead, probably put this off to the side today, do a little touch-up paint, and we'll go ahead and get back to the mower to get the drive system fixed. We've got I'll show you guys the pulley number here in a minute, but we've got the Stens 265 213 drive belt, and then we just have the V pulley. I've got a couple of sockets out, and then we have the 75604-325. So we should be all set to get everything knocked out. This should be a 5/8 for the crankshaft, and then we should just need a 1/2 inch for the pulley on the bottom. Now I do have the battery out, and I believe that we're gonna have to remove the nut on the hydrostatic fan, but I gotta figure out what size that is, because where the belt goes around the back of the hydrostatic fan, there's a guard there, and I don't think we'll be able to slip it around there. So, but we'll get the underside done first, and then we'll see what we got to do with the fan. All right, so the first thing we have to do is drop this belt guard right here so that we can drop down our main pulley. 1/2 inch on this. .5/8 on the crank, which should have plenty of oil on it from this thing leaking to drop that down. So that's loose now. We'll get it all the way loose. I need to go ahead and set my parking brake to relieve tension on the belt. And now that we've got the tension off from there, I'm gonna go ahead with my 1/2 inch and get the rear pulley removed. Now that one just goes right through the frame. There is a washer on there, but at this point, I think we're gonna have to drop this one down a little bit to be able to slip that belt, because it's pretty tight in there, and we're gonna have to squeeze the new one in. So we'll go ahead and just bump that loose a little bit. So I don't want to take it all the way off, but enough where we can get everything loose on there. And that should go ahead and give us all the slack that we need. I'm going to pull down the main pulley. There is a spacer on top. And I can go ahead and just feed the belt back now. And let's skip to that hydrostatic fan. All right, and then on the fan, I'm hoping I can get my impact down in here. It's a 19. All right, well, the pulley was spinning, so I've got the belt tight from underneath by my hand. I'm gonna come over the top now and see if I can get this nut off. There we go. So we've got that. Pull the nut and the fan. It looks like this pulley is just on a spline. Try to wiggle this loose to get it up. There we go. All right. So there's the pulley. The belt just fell off. So we can just set that back down on there for now. And basically, we'll go back under. Let me get this belt unraveled. And we'll probably start from the back to the front. All I did was just slide that pulley down. I made sure that our belt is all the way in that groove. Now the way that this one's gonna go, we obviously have to slide the belt back over. So this is a V pulley, so put the V side, and then we have a flat pulley, so we need the flat part to go against that. Now, hard to see, but there's a channel here, I guess it'd be like on the driver's side, that this needs to slip through, and then this is going to come all the way up to the front. I'm going to go ahead and loop it around the crankshaft of the engine, and then set that in place now, and then we can go ahead and put on our new pulley. So just need to get the pulley lined up over here. Make sure your belt, the backside is touching this guard right here. I'm gonna get it started. Then go ahead and get this into place. So we should be good there. Now we just need to move up to the crankshaft. All right, don't want to steer you guys the wrong way. I ended up having to take that other pulley back off it as well and give myself as much slack as I could to get enough around the top of the pulley and then just put it right in the guide. So I've got all that back in, and then I was just able to slip the belt right over. They are a little bit hard when they're new because it's stiff and it already has bends in it. But at this point, I still got to put that fan back on, but that should be easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and release the tension on the parking brake, and you guys can see now everything is nice and tight. So we should be all set with that. I'm going to go ahead, button up that fan, and I've got to put the guard back on for the belt, get the crank tightened up, but then we should be all set. All right, well, we still got a ton of detailing and cleaning up to do, which I am going to do that on my own time. But you guys have seen the repairs on here. I did end up charging up the original battery in here. We're gonna see how that does, but we're just gonna give this a quick crank. We'll move it back and forth a few feet because I'm not going out in the mud with this at the moment, and then we will give this thing a full shakedown. So nice and quiet. Excellent. We'll be able to test everything out here in a couple more days once I get finished up with this. So I'll show you guys when this thing is all ready to go. All right, well, if you guys have made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate it. If you guys do like this kind of content, maybe think about hitting that subscribe and leaving me a comment. Love hearing from you guys. But without further ado, let's see what this machine looks like all detailed up and ready to rock and roll. All right, and here it is, our 2010 LTX 1045 Cub Cadet. You guys have seen all the work that went into this machine. Now, truthfully, we don't have a ton into this mower. I was able to use the original battery. The original carb was okay. I still just need to do a oil change on here before I put this up for sale. The original blades were still good. I did put a fuel filter on it, and we rebuilt the deck, and really that is about it. So we've got probably less than $200 in this machine, and it's looking pretty darn good. It definitely, it's a little rough around the edges, some little rusty spots and stuff like that, but honestly it's starting to get later in the mowing season, and I'm trying to get some stuff moved out of here without having to do all of the paint work and, you know, spending weeks on end on one mower. So we'll go ahead and give this thing a crank. I did put some LED lights in the front. Looks pretty sharp, running very smooth. So I'll get you guys set up. I'll go ahead and kick on the mowing deck. We'll do a little cutting, take you guys for a lap, and we'll wrap it up. Right, I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but I've got probably about 6 inches of grass out here. You guys are usually telling me the yard is always mowed, and normally it is, but we have had a ton of rain, so that cut great on those first few passes. So let's go ahead and crank it back up, take you guys for a ride. right, well, this thing cut great, and that is going to do it for this Cub Cadet. Let me know what you guys think. I love hearing from you guys in the comment section, and I greatly appreciate you guys checking out the channel. So on that note, let freedom ring, let those small engines sing. I'll see you all in the next one.